Welcome back, everybody, to the Tactical Insight Show. Arsenal beat Man United 2-0. They make it 3 wins in a row in the Premier League for the first time this season. That's 4 wins if you include the Sporting game. And, of course, the games come thick and fast. Crucially, Liverpool drop points too. So do we dare entertain talk of a title race? But we're going to need more days and nights like we had yesterday if it's going to happen. Welcome back, Graham. It's a pleasure to be here. Beating Man United will always feel massive. Whatever context of our season, whatever context of their season, whatever the situation might be, it's just always great to beat them. And it's always going to take something to do it because Man United, look, they tend to show up in these games at the Emirates. They do. They, even though we've won, I think, our last 3 or 4 against them in a row at the Emirates, they do, it's a big game. They recognise that. But Arsenal have dealt with this fixture very well for a few years now, and certainly did last night.
Yeah, it's 825 days since Man United last beat us in a game, James, and we've won the last 4 now against Man United. So that's impressive, and it's not quite got the aura of the old Wenger-Ferguson era, has it? But it's still a massive game, and Man United is always a team that you look to beat, and they are one of the top 6 rivals, albeit they're not there at the moment, as you know. But in the end, for Arsenal, good night for Arsenal, as you say. Liverpool dropping points, 2 points at Newcastle. Arsenal not at their fluent best last night, and obviously needing 2 set plays to get over the line, but a massive victory, and now 4 straight wins since that bad run.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go into the match stats as we always do, people. I know you've missed it. As you can see, Arsenal had 14 shots to Man United's 5, but when you contrast the first half to the second half, you're going to enjoy the data we're going to show you in just a bit because it tells you about Arsenal's improvement. 6 shots on target to United's 2 with 50.4% possession in the game to their 49.6. We had 2 more passes completed on the day than Manchester United, but managed to muster a 1.92 XG to their 0.35. Let's go to the attacking stats where Arsenal had more final third entries, more deep touches, 2 less zone 14 touches, but a far better field tilt of over 60% and 13 corners. Manchester United didn't have a single corner on the day. I mean, that's extraordinary, Graham.
It is extraordinary. 13 corners Arsenal had. And you were in the stadium last night. Yeah. Were you doing the OLA, by the way?
Oh, of course I was. But also, and sorry for I'm repeating myself a lot here, I said Forever Arsenal on a fan cam that my view, I'm along the goal line and quite high up.
Yeah.
So the second half, I mean, watching the delivery from Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, they are experts at it. They are absolute masters of the set piece delivery.
Yeah, and the deliveries from them last night were right on the money. It's so difficult to defend against, isn't it? So, in the end, it was because of their delivery that we got over the line. Man United, as you say, didn't have one single corner. They only had 6 touches in our box. They only had 1 touch in our box in the first half, and that was the Dalot shot that fizzed across the penalty box. But overall, the fact that Arsenal had most of the ball in their final third, we were pressing to win the corners in the first place. Let's not forget that. It's not just a case of playing for corners. It's a case of you've got to be attacking to get into those positions where you're trying to score from open play, but you can win a corner. And as you say, Man United, no corners in the game because I thought first half Man United was set up very defensively in their 3-4-2-1 shape, and it was only the second half when they obviously had to chase the game. They made a few attacking changes, but I thought first half they defended deep with their back 3 in a sort of a defensive shape. And
it might be that change that swung the game and the momentum. We're going to go into that in a sec. Just a quick look at the defensive stats. United tackled us 7 more times than we tackled them. They also intercepted the ball 8 times more than us. 21 clearances to our 8. But 11.6 passes per defensive action for Arsenal to their 26.5 showed that actually it's weird. They pressed onto Raya quite a few times, but actually they weren't really engaging. I think they were trying to run around, especially in that first half, huff and puff and get into us. But I actually think we dealt with that quite well. It wasn't so much beating the press wasn't too much of a problem for us. I think it was actually trying to cause problems to their back 3 and penetrate a little bit more centrally and try and support our wings a little bit more. They struggle. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's compare. You sent this through, which I thought was really interesting. It's Arsenal stats versus Man United. First half compared to the second half. As you can see, the shot count went up massively from 3 to 11, 6 on target in the second half to 0 in the first half. Partey and Martinelli certainly should have hit the target with some opportunities that came from, funny enough, set pieces. Possession went up from 47.7% to 54.1%. We actually completed less passes, which was interesting, and had one less final third entry, which probably shows that we were more efficient, actually trying to go from back to front a little bit quicker, not just trying to pass our way through and finding a zip in our passing. I think we were a little bit more direct. 21 deep touches to our 10 in the first half, more zone 14 touches, a better field tilt, and a 9.2 passive but defensive action to 14.3. So we clearly were a little bit more urgent in trying to win the ball back again in the second half. Now all that played a part in the change and the momentum swing. Arsenal for sure pressing high a little bit, trying to be a little bit more efficient. But let's talk about that first half and what went wrong. We've got the 11s here on the tactical pad. So firstly, what did you make of Kiwior and Zinchenko, who came in for Gabriel and Calafiori on the day, both of them missing through injury?
Yeah, I must admit that caught me by surprise when I saw the lineups last night. So it was a massive change to lose literally your left-hand side. And I think the fact that we had no Gabriel and no Calafiori and Kiwior and Zinchenko came in, I think that did dictate the way Arsenal played the first half. I thought they were mindful of Man United in transition. So I thought that Declan Rice was sitting back more. He obviously Partey's the 6, Rice is like the left-sided 8. But I thought Rice is on that left side. So I thought first half Arsenal were mindful of the fact of the changes on their left-hand side, and I thought that was a factor in the way that Arsenal, I think, were not so intense in their pressing in the first half, because I thought that they were mindful of Man United playing through our press and getting up high with 1 or 2 combinations and getting players in wide areas. So I thought the changes to our back line did have a massive impact in the way that we didn't have the normal intensity that we normally show at the start of games, and we have done in the last 2 or 3.
Did you feel this at all, that actually at times, especially in the first 15-20 minutes, Zinchenko was trying to move slightly beyond Rice, and was that maybe because they wanted Rice not to commit forward too much to protect Kiwior?
Yes.
Something I've only just remembered now, but I do remember the first 20 minutes thinking it looks like they're trying to get Zinchenko almost beyond Rice, and not the other way around, which would be Zinchenko there, because suddenly with Partey, Zinchenko and Kiwior, you feel like that can be exposed a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think partly Zinchenko was trying to replicate what Calafiori does. Calafiori tends to roam when he's on that left-hand side, and Rice does come across.
Yeah.
But I thought that Rice's role in this game was quite interesting, because I thought when we pressed, and we changed our pressing shape in that game last night, normally we press in a 4-4-2. Because they had 3 centre-backs, we pressed more in a 4-1-4-1.
Let's show it.
And I think we changed the way we normally press. So I think Odegaard was more forward than Havertz, I thought, for a lot of the game when we were pressing, particularly in the first half. Havertz dropped back, and I thought Partey pushed on. Yeah. So what you had Odegaard as your highest player, sort of like pushing on to maybe Maguire, the more central of the 3 centre-halves. And then I thought that what Arteta asked Saka and Martinelli to do was, they were in a position on the wing-backs, but they were in a position where if the ball went out to, depending on which side centre-back, the left-sided centre-back or the right-sided centre-back, they were in a position to push on then onto those centre-backs. And if they did that, I thought then it was the job of our 2 full-backs, Timber and Zinchenko, then to push on to...
So, for example, if Saka went over to Mazraoui, then Timber would have to come across, and Arsenal would move through the gears, something like this, right?
I think that's what Arteta wanted. So Odegaard furthest forward. Havertz, for me, and Partey were sort of like pressing on to their 2 centre mids, because Fernandes played deeper last night next to Ugarte. Yeah. So I thought that Partey was sort of like more pushing on to Ugarte, and Fernandes was being... Havertz was dropping more to pick up Fernandes. Yeah. So and then as I said, the wide players, Saka and Martinelli, were in a position where they were literally hovering between the wing backs and the wide centre backs, so they could push onto the wide centre backs if they needed to, and then our 2 full backs would push up. Rice had a very key role in that first half, because obviously I think Arteta was weary of them, and that's why I didn't think we engaged as much as we normally do in the press, because he's weary of them. We let them have the ball, we let them play it around amongst their wing-backs a bit, because I think he was weary of them playing through our press, and then they were set up with two twos, Fernandes and Ugarte and Garnacho in the 2 next to Hoyand, so that they're in a position where they could sort of like then play through us and get at our defence. So I think Mount was in the 2 next to Garnacho. So Hoyand was further forward, Rasmus Hoyand further forward. So I thought that the role of Declan Rice really was to press Mount and to be wary of Mount, and that's why I think that he didn't get forward as much as he then did later in the game when Mount went off. So I thought that was how we set up. And then obviously Saliba, I thought if Garnacho got into a position to come inside, Saliba was then pushing out to sort of press him.
I thought this was actually a massive problem for Arsenal in the first half, that Man United's build-up, because I felt that there were moments, and look, every time we recreate these people on screen, like these moments happen so differently and so intricately in game all the time. There's no one set rule. It's not like Arsenal pressed like this and that was it, you know, and that we never once tweaked it or tried something different. And that Man United in build-up never at all at times looked slightly different in some ways. What I found watching it was that I think Martinelli, more so than Saka and Timber to be fair, I think Martinelli wasn't always sure whether to go on to De Ligt, which would invite Zinchenko over to Dalot, or whether to sit on to Dalot and maybe Havertz comes across like this or whatever. I think Arsenal looked quite confused. I think you could see them looking quite frustrated actually in game, not 100% sure what to do. Because the problem was, we want to press high up the pitch, well then Martinelli would step on to De Ligt and you would have something like this, right? But Dalot just felt like always a free man, and Zinchenko was hovering almost a little bit in this area, keeping an eye on the Mount, but keeping an eye on Dalot, but maybe waiting for Rice to get back, so then Dalot, so that he could push on to Dalot. And I just felt we were constantly reacting rather than being proactive about the situation. And the thing is, Arsenal's press and our defensive shape is such an underrated part of what gives us a platform to play our football, because it pins teams in, it forces wing backs back, it forces them to go, right, actually we're not having any success, let's drop in, and it just invites us a few yards forward, and it just drops them into the 4 like that. And I just felt Arsenal had lost the ability to gain control of the game in that first half because we didn't really have a cohesive press.
Yeah, and I think that the way that we dealt with their 3-4-2-1 shape, the way we pressed the game was always going to be key to how we tried to get control of the game. You're 100% right, because normally we do pin teams in and stop them from getting out with that press. I think you said 2 things there that were quite interesting to me, and obviously you were in the stadium watching it. I only watched it when I got home from work last night on the television. But what I saw really was, and you're talking about the confusion between Martinelli and Zinchenko. That is a new left-hand side for a start, which hasn't been played much this season.
No, not this season. No.
And I think the thing is, Martinelli's position was, as you said, he didn't know whether to go or to stay sometimes, or whether to go out wide or to come in to De Ligt, because normally Havertz would be the one pushing across in the 2 across the front, and Havertz at times also was being asked to push back onto Fernandes, depending on how they, because we let them have the ball at the back. So I think that's why I think Arsenal weren't so comfortable doing this. We're not used to playing against this shape, and that's why I thought first half that there were some problems with it, and Man United were able to keep the ball without really being all that penetrative against us. Yeah, totally. But they did have their success playing the ball around. We weren't pressing, and that's reflected in the numbers. We weren't pressing as high and as quickly, engaging as quickly as we normally do.
No, everyone's sorry. I know we've rattled on massively about what Arsenal struggled with in the first half, but I do think it's important because I think it explains sort of what our process is. For me anyway, the way I see it, Arsenal's process for sort of getting a foothold in the game. I also felt in build-up, I'm just going to mention this super quickly, I also felt that we were really struggling. If we just move them back, so there'll be more of a 4 and a 5 and a 4, I also felt that we were struggling. Apologies everyone, while I just get everyone in position. I think we were really struggling to access. Let's show it in a square. And let's show it in, blue is good. I think we were struggling to access this area of the pitch massively. Havertz was really having to drop wide at times with Odegaard. Odegaard was floating here, there, everywhere. And I just felt there was a lot of moving around and away from the 3 centre-backs. And we struggled to play through. Second half, things got a lot better. And I felt that we started to see from Arsenal a lot more just balls over the top for
it was
a
hard
player
to play
like
through them, though,
Martinelli
James.
to
It was
attack.
hard.
Yeah.
It was hard to play through them because basically they've got the three centre backs, the two wing backs, and tucked back into a five, and then you've got Ugarte and Fernandes sitting in front. So they were set up to stop us playing through the middle of the pitch. And Havertz, as you say, Havertz worked really hard last night trying to create space and move them around. But they were very well set up defensively to stop us from playing.
Yeah, and going over them, I think second half we saw more of that. Especially Kivior picked out a few nice passes. One to Trossard, I remember. Partey a few times. Got Saka, I remember in the first half he got Timber in behind with a lovely pass. And we started to open them up, going over them a little bit more. Now, just briefly, on the second half, they made a big change, Man United. We're going to show you the 11 once more. And things start to swing in our direction at that point. Malacia comes off. Obviously, he's only just back from injury, started to play football again. Diallo comes on, but they go and move Diallo out to the right wing back.
Ahmed comes on.
Sorry?
Ahmed comes on.
Yeah, Ahmed Diallo. Sorry,
Ahmed
Diallo, yeah. So Ahmed comes on, goes to the right wing.
Yeah.
Diallo goes to left wing back.
Yeah.
And I just felt that suddenly the gaps between these players, whether United meant to or not, whether they just tired, I don't know. Maybe they were chasing the game, trying to win it. But the gaps between wide centre back and wing back were much bigger, and Martinelli and Saka I felt had a lot more joy and space in that second half.
They did, and I think that the change, the first change he made was, he says, because obviously Malacia's just come back from injury and he's not fully fit, can't play more than 45 minutes. And we see him, he got hooked last week, didn't he, in the European game. He did a good job on Saka the first half. He won 3 of their 4 duels, and he was doing a good job on that side. And I think him coming off, Diallo coming over that side, obviously a more offensive player coming on, Ahmad, who moved over to the right-hand side. And then, of course, immediately we scored the first goal, don't we? Straight after, within 8 or 9 minutes of that change from the set piece. The moment that happens, then the Man United manager then has to go more offensive.
Yeah.
So what the real key substitution for me in the second half, James, was the two he made in the 59th minute.
Yeah.
And one in particular, and that was when he took off Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Mason Mount was doing a really good job out of possession, and obviously Declan Rice was having to sit more deeper to watch Mason Mount as well. So it was having an influence on the game in Rice's ability to get forward. All right. The moment that Mount comes off, he brings on Rashford, who's a more offensive player, but can't do the off-the-ball work that Mount does, and he tends to run around, not offering much off the ball. But obviously you want him on for what he can offer you, pace in transition. Yeah. But the moment that happened, Arsenal then really got a stranglehold on the game, Odegaard and Rice. Rice started making these driving runs with not having to worry about Mount anymore, driving runs up the pitch to get us up the pitch and get us into positions where we were in and around their box and lead into sort of set plays, getting us, keeping them hemmed in where they couldn't get out. That was a massive change, I thought, and I didn't think Rashford or Ahmed offered them that much going forward, apart from that one moment Ahmed had where he skinned Zinchenko and he pulled him back and took the booking. But overall, chasing the game, Man United didn't offer anything going forward, even in the second half with the forward players they put on, but they lost what they had defensively.
Totally agree. Let's talk about set pieces. So, I watched every set piece Arsenal scored from this season, so you don't have to. And here they are. We've tried to draw them. As you can see, we've got the Gabriel. If he's wearing the black kits, because it was the away goals he scored, I'm trying to remember them now, Tottenham away and West Ham away. Yeah. So 2 London derbies. And as you can see, what we're really trying to show you here, right? And I think to actually, normally I'd make things bigger so people can see more clearly. I actually have to make them smaller just to give everyone the space. But what I've done is I've shown the ball into the box, the movement, but the big thing is the positioning of every player on that pitch when they headed in, it's led to a goal. Now, I've actually got Partey there, but that's actually for Saliba's goal, because he obviously heads it off Saliba. So I'm showing the Saka cross into Partey. Now, the reason I've shown you all this is really to show you the variety of set pieces we score from, because obviously you've got Gabriel. I mean, how many times is he in there? 4 times, I think he is, 2 times in the home kit, 2 times in the away kit. But you've got Trossard at the back post against Leicester was a big one. You've got Timber against Man United last night. We've got Partey, who's heads it back onto Saliba and it goes into the back of the net. Rice and Saka have been our takers. I haven't seen anyone else that we've scored from take our set pieces. And you've also got Saka from all the way out wide against PSG, where it went basically through and into the back of the net. And Declan Rice's wonderful whip ball for Mikel Merino against Liverpool that led to us going 2-1 up in that game, and the game we drew 2-2. it's such a range of set-piece goals, and I think it's really important to talk about this because for me it explains why Arsenal are so good at set pieces. It's not just, we're not showing you here a cluster of players in the exact same area or just a routine that no team can deal with and eventually they'll find out. Set pieces will always be a part of football, you'll always get them. Even if you're being dominated in a game, you can have a moment where you win a free kick and you've got the chance to maybe whip it in from the area Declan Rice did against Liverpool. When your delivery is that good and you can hit different areas so accurately. I mean, one of them is, Gabriel starting here and he just crashes the back post. Same against Man City, starting in this area here. And he just darts into the back post and smashes it into the back of the net. The range of goals we're scoring from these set pieces, for me, makes it completely and utterly sustainable, Graham.
Yeah, and one thing that can't also not be denied, I think, is the fact that we've got 6 foot plus players to attack those deliveries. What Arteta has done is he's built a team of giants, hasn't he?
Oh yeah.
You've got even Declan Rice, if he was in the middle, would be a giant, but he's taken one from one side. But when you've got players of that height attacking the ball, it's whipped in with pace and power, and the delivery is so accurate, and you mix it up, I think it's a really good weapon. But I've seen a lot of stuff on the media overnight about Arsenal set piece FC, Stoke City FC. We've scored 82 goals in 32 games in 2024.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
We scored 15 goals in our last 4 games. We're not just a set piece team.
And I think we have the most points of any team in 2024.
I mean, look, there's many ways to win a football game, but we're not just Stoke City. Let's get that fundamentally clear straight away. And that really did annoy me when I read that this morning. Because basically, as I said, 15 goals in 4 games since the international break, 82 goals in 2024. Only 22 from corners in the last 2 years, I think something like that. So, look, we're more than that. But what we have got is a really good weapon. So when we're not quite playing as well, when teams are defending as well as what Man United were last night, when we're struggling to play our normal game, we've got something else we can go to. And that's part of the game. And the other thing, Man United didn't have 1 corner last night because they didn't get into a position where they could win a corner.
And every team has their weapon. So ours is set pieces, and because it's a set piece, it's kind of looked down on. But Man City over the years, I could think of 2. They've always been able to work a situation for a cut back to Rodri on the edge of the penalty area. That has always been a weapon of theirs. Finding, having the movement and the position of the players to get Rodri on the end unmarked. They've worked on that. They've always, and yes, it's from open play, but Rodri has often been someone that they've gone to in those areas and they've worked away for it. They used to find Gundogan at the back post as well. That was a weapon, I think, before he left in the kind of 2 seasons before. Gundogan at the back post was a weapon. If they needed a goal, that was somewhere that they would really flood that back post, and it was a go-to for City. Liverpool under Klopp went through a few years where if things weren't working, they'd hit the channels. They'd constantly be looking for Salah and Mane in the channels. That was a go-to for them because they had success from it. So every team has something. If ours is playing for corners because we're good at them, I just find it extraordinary that people would look down on it, but it is really anything Arsenal do that isn't beautiful, scintillating football, winning 5-6-0. They're going to find something to be somewhat critical of, and I just think I said on Forever Arsenal, De Ligt, Man United's best moment that he scored was a set piece, and we just went through the numbers there. Man United have scored 5 goals from set pieces, 2 behind Arsenal. Yeah. So it's very much, before yesterday, it was as much a weapon for them as it was for us. So I just think we have stumbled on something. No, we haven't stumbled on it. It's Nicolas Jover's great work. It's Rice, it's Saka, it's the work from the team, it's Mikel Arteta. It's something that they've worked on that is just a tremendous weapon. And I'm really proud of the team for finding another way. You have to find different ways because teams are constantly trying to stifle you and stop you. Yes,
and no Gabriel last night, of course, but no problem, was it? Because Timber scored his first goal for the club, and then albeit slightly fortuitously, the second one. But ultimately, I think it's the delivery, and I think also what teams now, you know what Arsenal are going to do, but it's a bit like when you used to line up against players in the tunnel and you looked across and you thought, wow, they've got some 6 foot players. They know we've got some 6 foot players, but they know also that we're really good at doing that. And I think teams are a little bit nervous about it now.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Oh, for sure they are.
And because they're seeing it now week in, week out. And it's a wonderful... And I think maybe there's a little bit of jealousy coming in from other teams who can't replicate as well as what we do. But make no mistake, we try and play football. We try and build up through the thirds, and we try and play through the centre of the pitch. What's happening is that teams are finding ways to stop us from playing football. So we've now found a way, if we're not able to play our football, of scoring from a different way of playing. So,
yeah.
You know, it's been, you could argue, it's almost been forced upon us by the fact that teams are respecting the way that we play. Yeah. They're respecting the way that our right-hand side, they put players across now, 2 or 3 players on Bukayo Saka to stop him from trying to create, to stifle that Odegaard, Saka, Timber or White triangle. They're trying to cover the centre of the pitch to stop us playing through the centre of the pitch. So basically, we've now found another way, haven't we? And a lot of people don't like it, but they're going to have to get used to it because we are really good at it. And you know, and I think it's up to them now to try and find a way to stop Arsenal from scoring. But you know, other teams can score that way as well. Let's not forget it.
This is my point. Whether other teams can defend it better, they'll figure that out because the coaches always figure things out.
Yeah.
But my question to other teams is, why aren't you guys better at it?
Yeah.
That's my thing. Well, if it's such a problem for us, but it's resulting in so many goals, I don't know why other teams wouldn't want it to be a weapon that they've got that they can turn to as well. I was thinking there's a couple more things that Arsenal have done really well when it comes to set pieces. Because so many of our routines start with a cluster of players in one area before they move out, I think it's really difficult for teams to pick up and man mark, because if you man mark, then there's an area of the penalty area completely left alone. So they zonal mark us, which means that they have to very quickly react once we do move into the position. So Saka will give a signal and then the players disperse. And so they have to, in an instant, instinctively, every player on that pitch has to take responsibility for what's happening. So I think it's a really clever routine, the way the Arsenal players cluster in one area. The other thing is simply, and you've touched on it just now, we're such a big team, so many players are above 6 foot whatever, that if the quality of that delivery is good enough, the Man United players, or whoever the defending team is, they're not running away from their goal to attack the ball. They're kind of standing. At most, they're running a bit forward, a bit back. They might step a bit. Arsenal players are running around and onto them. So they've got that physical momentum and drive. So it's very... You almost just get totally bullied physically. You just get pushed out of the way. If the quality of the delivery is that good, Onana's trying to scramble it off his goal line while, you know, the Arsenal players are just all collapsing onto him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pure force of nature.
Yeah.
And it's really clever from Arsenal because I'm such a broken record of this, but I keep likening it to an ace in tennis. When Federer hit that line with the pace and the accuracy on his first serve, you couldn't really do anything about it. And if you can take those moments in football, like when you win a penalty, being really good at them, like set pieces, if you take those moments where you have total control, no one can stop you taking a corner. No one can stand in front of you. Once you've won that corner, it's quite literally a free hit of the ball.
Yeah.
If you maximise that opportunity, of course it's a great weapon. And football fans have actually been saying for years, why aren't we better at set pieces? Why can't we, you know, if you master that, then sure. And now a team has actually taken it upon them to do it. And Liverpool and City have always been up there for numbers too. They've always, over the last 4 or 5 years, they've always been up there for set piece goals too. Because the very, very best try to gain every percentage they can. And Arsenal are gaining every percentage they can via set pieces.
Yes, and as you said earlier, tremendous credit goes to Nicolas Jover.
Yeah.
We've got 2 players in Rice and Saka who are absolutely brilliant at the deliveries. And one final point is there is variety in the way that we play these corners. You talked about the run across the box, but we're also good at hitting near post, and we can go middle of the goal. Yeah. So there's different types of deliveries. Arsenal, it wasn't just about sort of like, you talked about players running across the fence last night, which they did, but there were also a lot of different varieties in the way that the corners come in last night. That makes it incredibly difficult to defend against.
Totally agree. Arsenal ended the game having had 13 corners, I think we said.
13 corners, yeah.
Yeah, 7 shots with an XG of 1.1. So there you go. I mean, that just tells you how much Arsenal
So out of
generated.
13 corners, 6 of them generated a shot at goal.
There we go. Arsenal scored 7 goals from set pieces this season, with Everton and Villa on 6, United, Chelsea and Forest with 5 each. So actually I thought I'd gone through that in the stat. I hadn't yet, but you've got it right there. We spent half an hour on all the tactics, so we're going to fly through very quickly what you need to know of the players. William Saliba, my man of the match, 100% long ball accuracy, 93% pass accuracy, 70% of his duels on with 71 touches, 7 passes into the final third, 2 clearances and a goal. And what stats don't tell you is the composure he had when no one was around and players were trying to press him. There was an obvious pass, he just carried the ball forward to open the game up. William Saliba was unbelievable for Arsenal. I know you want to come in on him just very quickly. Declan Rice as well, 8 times 1 possession, 5 of his 6 duels won, 3 chances created, 2 shots, a tackle and an assist as well.
I'll just make 2 quick points about one about each player. Saliba last night, without his big buddy Gabriel, had to take on that responsibility. Kivior had a very good game. Give Kivior his props. He played well. Grew into the game really nicely. But Saliba, powerful, physical, dealt with the attack really well, and as you say, got us up the pitch. Declan Rice, I thought that was a really good performance. He pushed Saliba close for man of the match for me. Remember, he had a stellar season last year, and didn't have no break, no pre-season. Has been playing with the pain through the broken toe. Had that disruption when he was sent off, and now he seems to be back to his best. That was brilliant from him. First half, defensively, helping out on that left-hand side with the changes, and then second half, once Mount gone off, he was the one driving us forward, and his delivery, that perfect delivery, led to the breakthrough goal.
Totally agree, and we all think you should see this as well. This is pre-Man United game, we should say, but as you can see, a lot of the stats actually line up with that United game. That with Odegaard, Arsenal scored 2.4 goals to 1.9 without. Our XG is 2.1 to 1.6 without, 14.9 shots to 13.8 without, and 3.4 big chances per game to 2.9 without. The impact he's had, and I thought, while actually it's so funny because it sounds insulting to say that Martin Odegaard wasn't at the level against Man United that he was against West Ham, Sporting, Forest, yet he was magical at times and he went off to a standing ovation from the Arsenal crowd. Those are the standards he is setting, and it's great to have him back. And I just think ultimately, when you've got Saliba, when you've got Odegaard, when you've got Saka, don't rule this Arsenal team out. They've always got a chance from multiple areas. Saka big on set pieces. Yesterday, Saliba with a goal off his backside and Odegaard running the game. And what I loved was the way at 1-0, we actually spent a bit of time without possession. And then at 2-0, we actually ended up playing the rest of the game in Man United's half. They never looked like getting a goal back to kind of make it a bit nervy. Arsenal in total control, and Odegaard ran a lot of that, along with Declan Rice, Partey and a few others, so well done to them. Yeah,
and just one final player I want to mention, who's gone under the radar a bit, is Duran Timber. Scored his first goal last night, but showed his versatility last night, because when we had to make the change, Zinchenko was on a yellow, he tweaked it, Partey went to right back, Mourinho came on, he then went over to left back. But one of the keys...
Yeah, Timber left back,
Timber went left back. But one of the keys to the success we've had since the international break has been the fact that we've got Timber back in the team. He's stayed fit and his performances have been outstanding.
Yeah.
So I think credit to him as well.
Absolute credit to him. Right, the roundup stats, I've missed these, Graham. Let's go. You sent me a cheeky one about Tottenham. It better be in there.
It's in there. The closing stats for this week, James, are that, as I said earlier, it's been 825 days since Arsenal lost the game to Man United. And for the first time in league history, Arsenal have now won 4 straight games against Man United. It started in January 2023, 3-2, when we got the late goal. Was it Eddie?
It was Eddie, so then we had the 3-1.
The 3-1 in September 23. We got another late goal when Jesus sent Dallo sliding out the stadium. Then there was the 1-0 in May 2024 up there at the end of last season, and 2-0 last night. That was the 4th straight win. And this is an interesting one for me. Mikel Arteta has the best win percentage of any manager to face Man United in 5+ games in Premier League history. Wow. The win rate of his 10 games against Man United, 7 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, is an impressive 70%.
Can I just say something super quickly, right? Yeah. If you look at those other games against Man United, some people are critical of Arsenal, saying, oh, maybe we were a bit boring last night, the football wasn't great, relied on set pieces. But we won that 2-0, and you could argue that was a much more comfortable game than the 1-0 at Old Trafford, where we tried to play our football but struggled, the 3-2 when Eddie scored late, the 3-1 where we scored 3 goals. This might have been a bit more pragmatic, whatever people want to call it, but it was by far the most comfortable. So I think people do need to recognise that you can win in different ways, and sometimes compromising on free-flowing, all-out attacking football can earn you something a little bit more comfortable at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Right, 2 more.
Go for it.
We've now Arsenal undefeated in 16 straight games against the Big Six. Man United.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Man United in comparison are winless in 10 straight games against the Big
We
Six.
used to get battered by them all the time. I grew up getting battered by these teams.
So that's quite an important stat, and I'll just leave you with one. Tottenham Hotspur, 6,130 days without a trophy. Nothing to do with Arsenal, Man United, but
They play tonight, actually.
I just haven't been mentioning them lately.
We weirdly need them to show up against Chelsea, though, on the weekend.
We do. Chelsea. Are Chelsea in the title race for you?
Yeah, they're looking good.
Yeah.
I don't think they've got quite enough to win it.
Well, they never have a better chance of winning it because they're not in Europe, are they? They're in the Conference League, but they're not. They're only playing one.
They'll keep adding and spending and getting better.
No, but I'm just saying that basically they're only playing. I know this is a double Premier League week, but they're not playing. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City are playing Premier League midweek. Sorry, Champions League midweek, Premier League weekend. Their players are just playing one game every 7 days.
Well, they are playing the Conference League, but they get to rotate almost the whole 11, don't they?
Yeah, that's the point. Their top players are not playing at the moment.
Yeah, I guess.
So I think they're in the title race. But it was a great night last night. Liverpool dropping 2 points.
They're looking good enough, Chelsea, aren't they? There we go. Who would have thought it? Graham and I asking for a little favour from Tottenham. They probably won't want to do it for us, I imagine. But there we go. Everyone, a big thank you for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed. Tactical Insight is back, and of course we'll be covering the big games and more here on AFTV. So keep up to date with everything. If you want to do that, you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and you'll be notified whenever there is an upload. And of course, Fulham this weekend means more pressure, but hey, this is what we want today. Graham, a big thank you. Well done to Arsenal, well done to Nicolas Jover, and 9 points has become 7. It's still a long way. It's a tiny bit closer. Let's keep pushing.